He bought an old hotel for 50 cents, then found a $13 million hidden fortune. Marcus Stone stared at the crumpled receipt in his weathered hands. 50 cents. That's all he'd paid for a 3-story hotel that should have been worth thousands. The man who sold it to him, Victor Ashford, had practically thrown the deed at him before disappearing into the dusty street like he was running from something terrible. But hotels don't sell for 50 cents. Not ever. Standing in the abandoned lobby, Marcus noticed things that made no sense. Fresh scratches on the walls, recently moved furniture, a registration book with torn-out pages. Someone had been here recently, searching for something. The question was, what? And why had Victor been so desperate to get rid of a property that was clearly hiding secrets? If you're already hooked by this incredible mystery, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this story is about to take some unbelievable twists. Marcus traced his finger along a strange pattern carved into the wooden reception desk. The marks looked deliberate, almost like a map. 3 lines converged toward a single point with small notches indicating distances. Following the carved directions with his eyes, they led directly to the back wall where a painting hung slightly crooked. When Marcus moved the painting aside, he found what the desk carvings had been pointing to all along. A hole in the wall freshly covered with new plaster. Someone had left him a deliberate trail to follow. Someone had been here before him. Someone had found something, and judging by Victor's frantic behavior during the sale, that someone might still be watching. But what Marcus would find behind that wall in the next few hours wouldn't just make him rich, it would make him a target. Marcus Stone's hands trembled as he pried away the fresh plaster behind the crooked painting. The hole was deeper than expected, and his fingers touched something cold and metallic, a metal box hidden deliberately in the wall cavity. The morning sun streaming through the hotel's dusty windows illuminated the lobby where Marcus now sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, the mysterious box before him. It was heavier than it looked, made of solid iron with intricate engravings along its edges. No lock, just a simple latch that opened with surprising ease. Inside, wrapped in oiled cloth, were stacks upon stacks of bills, more money than Marcus had ever seen in his life. His heart pounded as he counted. 50,000. 100,000, 500,000. The numbers kept climbing until his head spun with disbelief. $13 million. But beneath the money lay something that made Marcus's blood run cold. A leather journal filled with names, dates, and amounts. His own name appeared on the very last page, written in fresh ink. Marcus Stone, buyer, eliminate if necessary. Marcus's thoughts raced as he tried to process what he was seeing. Someone had planned this. Someone had known he would buy the hotel. Someone had known he would find the money. But who? The sound of approaching footsteps on the wooden porch outside made Marcus freeze. Through the window he saw a woman in a dark dress walking purposefully toward the front entrance. She moved with the confidence of someone who belonged here, someone who knew exactly what she was looking for. Marcus quickly stuffed the money back into the box and shoved it behind a fallen piece of furniture. The journal, however, he slipped into his coat pocket just as the front door creaked open. "Good morning," the woman called out, her voice carrying an edge of authority that made Marcus's spine straighten. "I'm Elena Blackwood. I believe we need to talk about what you found in this hotel." Marcus's mouth went dry. How could she possibly know? About the money? And why was his name written in that journal with such a chilling notation beside it? Elena Blackwood stepped into the hotel lobby with the familiarity of someone who had walked these floors many times before. Her sharp eyes immediately scanned the room, lingering on the displaced furniture where Marcus had hidden the money box. "You're wondering how I know," she said, removing her gloves with deliberate slowness. "The truth is, I've been watching this place for weeks, waiting for someone like you to come along." Marcus's hand instinctively moved to the journal in his coat pocket. Someone like me? Someone honest enough to actually explore what they bought, but naive enough to believe they could keep it. Elena's smile was cold as winter frost. "That money you found isn't a treasure, Mr. Stone. It's bait. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting to the most shocking part of this story. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think Elena's real plan is." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Bait. His mind raced through the implications. If the money was bait, then someone was fishing. And if someone was fishing, Then Marcus was the catch. Elena moved closer to the reception desk, her fingers tracing the same carved patterns Marcus had followed earlier. These marks weren't made by accident. They're a message left by the previous owner before he disappeared, a warning about what happens to people who find what you just found. What happened to him? Marcus's voice came out as barely a whisper. Same thing that's going to happen to you if you don't listen very carefully. Elena's expression hardened. That journal in your pocket contains names of 12 men who found money hidden in various buildings around this territory. 11 of them are dead. Marcus's blood turned to ice. He pulled the journal from his pocket with shaking hands, flipping through pages he hadn't had time to examine properly. Name after name, each with dates and locations, each with a red line drawn through it. You're the 12th, Elena continued. And the only reason you're still breathing is because they needed time to prepare. But that time is almost up. Through the window, Marcus caught sight of movement in the street. 3 men on horseback had appeared, watching the hotel with the patience of predators. They weren't approaching yet, but their presence sent a clear message. Elena noticed his gaze and nodded grimly. They're here for the money, Mr. Stone, but more importantly, they're here to make sure you never tell anyone what you've learned. Marcus gripped the journal tighter. Who are they? What do they want? That, Elena said, moving toward the back door, is what we're going to find out. But first, we need to get you somewhere safe because in about 5 minutes, this hotel is going to become the most dangerous place in the territory. Marcus followed Elena through the hotel's back door, clutching the journal against his chest like a shield. Behind them, the sound of spurs jingling on wooden boards echoed through the lobby as the 3 riders entered through the front. This way, Elena whispered urgently, leading him toward a small storage shed behind the building. But as they approached, Marcus realized something that made his heart sink into his boots. You knew they were coming, he said, stopping dead in his tracks. You knew exactly when they'd arrive. Elena turned, and for the first time, Marcus saw something different in her eyes. Not fear, but calculation. Very observant, Mr. Stone. Yes, I knew they were coming, just like I knew you'd find that money exactly when you did. Marcus's mind raced as pieces began falling into place. You're working with them. Not with them, Elena corrected, pulling a small pistol from beneath her dress. For them. There's a difference, though I suspect it won't matter much to you right now. The betrayal hit Marcus harder than any physical blow. He'd trusted her, believed she was trying to help him escape. Instead, she'd been hurting him exactly where they wanted him to go. Why the elaborate game? Marcus asked, his voice tight with anger. Why not just kill me in the hotel? Because the money isn't the real prize, Elena replied, keeping the weapon trained on him. The journal is. That list of names represents something much more valuable than $13 million. It represents 12 men who discovered the same operation we've been running across 3 territories. Marcus felt the pieces of the puzzle clicking together with horrible clarity. You've been planting money in abandoned buildings, luring people to find it, then killing them to keep the operation secret. Not just any people, Elena said with a twisted smile. Specifically, honest people. People who would report their findings to the authorities instead of keeping quiet about illegal gains. People like you. Through the shed's small window, Marcus could see the 3 riders searching the hotel methodically. They weren't in any hurry, which meant they were confident their prey couldn't escape, which meant Elena had planned this trap perfectly. But something went wrong with your plan, Marcus said, noticing hesitation in Lena's stance. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to explain anything to me. Elena's expression flickered with uncertainty for just a moment. The previous owner, Victor Ashford, wasn't supposed to sell the hotel. He was supposed to disappear like all the others, but he panicked and sold it instead, which means he's still alive, Marcus finished. And he knows about your operation. The sound of approaching footsteps outside the shed made them both freeze. But these weren't the heavy boots of the 3 riders. These footsteps were different, more cautious, more deliberate. A voice called out from just beyond the shed door. Elena, I think it's time we had that conversation about what really happened to my money. This story is about to explode with action. If you're loving these plot twists, smash that like button and share this with someone who loves mystery stories. Victor Ashford stepped into the shed with the quiet confidence of a man who held all the cards. His appearance was dramatically different from the nervous, desperate seller Marcus had met just days earlier. Gone was the frantic energy replaced by cold determination. "Hello, Elena," Victor said calmly. "I see you found our new friend." Marcus's confusion deepened as he watched the exchange. "You two know each other?" "Know each other?" Victor laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Elena is my business partner. Was my business partner until she decided to cut me out of our arrangement." Elena's pistol wavered between the two men. "You were supposed to disappear, Victor. Take your cut and vanish like we agreed." "Take my cut." Victor's voice rose with genuine anger. "You mean the tiny percentage you offered while you kept the real profits?" "I built this operation, Elena. I identified the targets, placed the money, created the whole system." Marcus felt sick as the full scope of their scheme became clear. "You've been doing this for years." 5 years, Victor confirmed. 47 honest men eliminated across 3 territories. Each one found money they thought was hidden treasure. Each one died before they could tell anyone about it, until now. "What makes now different?" Marcus asked, though part of him already suspected the answer. Elena and Victor exchanged a look that spoke of years of partnership turned sour. "Because," Elena said finally, "Victor got greedy. Instead of eliminating you cleanly, he decided to sell you the hotel legitimately, thinking he could frame you for theft later and keep all the money." "But Elena had her own plans," Victor added. "She wanted to use you to expose my involvement, then kill us both, and disappear with everything." Marcus realized with growing horror that he was trapped between 2 predators who were more interested in destroying each other than in killing him cleanly, which meant the situation was about to become much more dangerous. The sound of voices from the hotel grew louder. The 3 riders had finished their search and were calling for Elena. Time was running out for all of them. "Here's what's going to happen," Victor said, pulling his own weapon. "Elena is going to hand over the real ledger that contains all our financial records. Then we're going to eliminate Mr. Stone together, like we should have from the beginning." "The real ledger?" Marcus looked between them in confusion. Elena smiled grimly. "The journal you found was just the kill list, Mr. Stone. The real treasure is the detailed record of every penny we've stolen, every official we've bribed, and every authority figure who's been looking the other way." Marcus's heart raced as he realized the true scope of what he'd stumbled into. This wasn't just about money hidden in walls. This was about corruption that reached into the highest levels of territorial government. And now, both Elena and Victor needed him dead to protect a secret worth far more than $13 million. The tension in the small shed was broken by the sound of the hotel's back door slamming open. Heavy boots stomped across the wooden porch as the 3 riders discovered their quarry's escape route. "They're coming," Marcus whispered, but neither Elena nor Victor lowered their weapons. "Give me the ledger, Elena," Victor demanded through gritted teeth. "Those men work for me, not you. When they get here, I'll tell them you've been skimming money from our operations." Elena's laugh was bitter as winter wind. "Your men, Victor? You fool. They stopped working for you the moment you sold that hotel. They work for whoever pays them, and I've been paying them very well." Marcus's heart sank as he realized the full scope of his predicament. The 3 riders weren't coming to rescue anyone. They were coming to clean up loose ends, which meant killing all 3 people in this shed. "Then we're all dead," Victor said, his voice losing its confident edge for the first time. "Not all of us," Elena replied, her pistol now trained solely on Victor. "I made a deal with them. Bring them your head and the ledger, and they'll let me disappear with enough money to start over somewhere far from here." Marcus watched the exchange with growing understanding. These criminals had created a system so corrupt that it had inevitably turned on itself. But that gave him an idea, a desperate, dangerous idea that might be his only chance of survival. "Wait," Marcus interrupted, causing both weapons to swing toward him briefly. "You're both missing something important." "What?" Victor snapped. The money I found in the hotel. Where is it right now? Elena's eyes widened with realization. In all the betrayal and counter-betrayal, they'd forgotten about the $13 million still hidden behind the furniture in the hotel lobby. Those three men, Marcus continued. They don't know about your partnership. They don't know about the ledger. All they know is that there's money in that hotel, and whoever gets to it first keeps it. The footsteps outside grew closer, accompanied by voices discussing which direction their targets might have fled. You're suggesting we work together? Victor asked incredulously. I'm suggesting we have about 30 seconds before they realize we're in here, Marcus replied. And when they do, they're going to kill all three of us and take the money for themselves. Elena's grip on her pistol tightened. Why should we trust you? Because I'm the only one here who doesn't want anyone dead, Marcus said. I just want to survive this, but more importantly, I'm the only one who knows exactly where that money is hidden. A shadow fell across the shed's small window as one of the riders approached to peer inside. Decide quickly, Marcus whispered, because our time just ran out. The next few minutes are going to determine who lives and who dies. Comment below if you think Marcus can outsmart these killers. The shed door exploded inward as the first rider kicked it open with violent force. The man was tall and weathered with scars crisscrossing his face like a map of old battles. His pistol was already drawn and aimed before he'd finished entering. Well, well, he drawled, taking in the scene of three people with weapons pointed at each other. Looks like we interrupted a family reunion. The other two riders flanked their leader, effectively blocking any escape route. Marcus noticed that despite their casual demeanor, these men moved with the precision of experienced killers. Hello, Garrett, Elena said, lowering her weapon slightly. I was just about to bring you what we discussed. The scarred man, Garrett, smiled without warmth. Were you now? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you were having second thoughts about our arrangement. Victor stepped forward desperately. Garrett, listen to me. Elena's been lying to you. She's been skimming money from our operations for months. I can prove it with the ledger. The ledger? Garrett's interest sharpened. You mean this ledger? He pulled a thick, leather-bound book from inside his coat. Marcus's heart sank as he recognized it immediately. The real financial records that Elena and Victor had been fighting over. Where did you get that? Elena demanded. From your hotel room last night, Garrett replied casually. Did you really think we wouldn't search your belongings while you were playing games with our new friend here? Marcus realized with growing dread that these men had been several steps ahead of everyone else. They'd never intended to honor any deals with Elena or Victor. They'd been planning to eliminate all the loose ends from the beginning. So, you see, Garrett continued, we don't need either of you anymore. We have the ledger. We know where the money is hidden, and we have enough information to continue this operation without any of the original architects. But you still need me, Marcus said, surprising everyone, including himself, with the steadiness of his voice. Because the money isn't where you think it is. Garrett's smile turned slightly. Explain. Marcus's mind raced as he formed his desperate strategy. When Elena and I ran from the hotel, I moved the money. All $13 million. I buried it outside where none of you will ever find it without my help. You're lying, Victor snarled. Am I? Marcus challenged. Check the hotel if you want. You'll find the empty box exactly where you expect it to be. But the money, that's somewhere only I know. Garrett's eyes narrowed dangerously. Where is it? Buried 50 paces from the hotel's back corner, marked by a pile of stones I arranged in a specific pattern, Marcus replied, praying his lie sounded convincing. But if anything happens to me, you'll never find the right spot. There are rocks scattered all around this territory. The shed fell silent except for the sound of everyone's breathing. Marcus had just gambled his life on a bluff, betting that Garrett's greed would outweigh his desire for a clean elimination. You've got 5 minutes to retrieve it, Garrett finally said. After that, we start removing fingers until you remember where you put it. Marcus nodded, knowing he'd bought himself a few more minutes of life. But now he had to figure out how to turn those minutes into an escape that didn't end with him dead in the dirt. Marcus led the group back toward the hotel, his mind racing to turn his desperate lie into reality. Garrett walked directly behind him, pistol pressed against his spine, while the other two riders flanked Elena and Victor. As they approached the hotel's back entrance, Marcus noticed something that gave him the faintest glimmer of hope. Smoke was rising from the main street beyond the building, black thick smoke that spoke of something large burning out of control. "What's that?" one of Garrett's men asked, pointing toward the smoke. "Probably nothing," Garrett replied, but Marcus caught the uncertainty in his voice. "Keep moving." Inside the hotel lobby, Marcus walked directly to where he'd hidden the money box behind the fallen furniture, his heart hammering as he prepared to reveal his deception to buy time. "Well?" Garrett demanded. Marcus knelt down and pulled out the iron box, opening it to reveal the stacks of bills inside. "Here it is, all 13 million. Garrett's face darkened with rage. "You said you buried it outside." "I lied," Marcus admitted, looking Garrett straight in the eye. "I figured if you thought you needed me alive to find it, you might hesitate long enough for something to change." "You little—" Garrett raised his pistol, but Marcus held up his hand. "But I wasn't wrong about needing time for something to change." That's when the front door of the hotel burst open, and Marcus's heart leaped with unexpected hope. A man wearing a territorial marshal's badge strode in, followed by 6 armed deputies. "Nobody move," the marshal shouted. "This building is surrounded." Garrett spun toward the new threat, his carefully laid plans crumbling in an instant. "How did you find us?" The marshal smiled grimly. "We've been tracking this operation for months. When we saw the smoke signals from the fire you set to distract the townspeople, we knew you'd make your move." Marcus realized with growing amazement that the smoke he'd seen wasn't coincidence. The authorities had been watching, waiting for the right moment to capture Garrett and his associates in the act. "But how did you know where we'd be?" Elena demanded. The marshal reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. "Because Mr. Victor Ashford has been working with us for the past 3 weeks, providing information about your entire operation in exchange for Clemex. NC." The room fell silent as everyone turned to stare at Victor, who had the good grace to look ashamed. "I'm sorry, Elena, but after 47 murders, I couldn't continue. When the marshal approached me, I agreed to help end this." Garrett raised his pistol toward Victor with murderous intent, but the marshal's deputies were faster. Gunfire erupted in the small space, brief but decisive. When the smoke cleared, Garrett and his 2 associates lay motionless on the hotel floor. Elena sat slumped against the wall, wounded but alive, and Marcus stood unharmed, still clutching the iron box that had started this entire deadly chain of events. "Mr. Stone," the marshal said, holstering his weapon, "you're free to go. The money you found is evidence now, but there will be a substantial reward for your cooperation in this matter. This incredible transformation is just the beginning. Stay tuned to see how Marcus's life completely changed forever." Months later, Marcus Stone stood in the same hotel lobby where his life had nearly ended. But everything was different now. Sunlight streamed through clean windows onto polished wooden floors. Fresh paint covered the walls where bullet holes had been patched, and new furniture filled the space where violence had once reigned. The territorial court had been swift in its justice. Elena Blackwood received life imprisonment for her role in 47 murders. Her cooperation in revealing the full scope of the operation earning her a reprieve from the hangman's noose. She would spend the rest of her days in the territorial prison, a broken woman who had lost everything in pursuit of easy wealth. Victor Ashford had been granted clemency as promised, but the weight of his crimes had aged him 20 years and 3 months. He'd taken the small reward offered by the court and disappeared into the Northern Territories, carrying the burden of 47 lives on his In science, for whatever time remained to him, the $13 million had indeed been returned to its rightful owners, the territorial government fund from which it had been systematically stolen over 5 years. But Marcus's role in exposing the conspiracy had earned him a reward of $50,000, more money than he'd ever dreamed of possessing through honest means. Marshal Davidson walked into the hotel lobby, his boots echoing in the now peaceful space. "Inspections complete, Mr. Stone. Everything looks to be in order for your grand opening next week." Marcus nodded, running his hand along the smooth surface of the reception desk. He'd decided to keep the hotel, using his reward money to renovate it completely. The building that had once housed corruption and murder would now serve as an honest business, providing shelter and comfort to travelers. Any word from the other territories about similar operations? Marcus asked. All shut down, the marshal confirmed. Your discovery broke open the largest corruption scheme in territorial history. 32 officials removed from office, 17 criminal organizations dismantled, and over 200 victims finally getting justice. Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the bustling street beyond. The town had grown considerably since news of the conspiracy's exposure had spread. Honest businesses were thriving now that corrupt officials could no longer demand illegal payments or protection money. You know, Marshal Davidson said, joining him at the window, there's been talk of you running for territorial representative. People see you as a symbol of honesty in government. Marcus smiled and shook his head. I think I'll stick to running a hotel, Marshal. Politics seems like a dangerous business. As the marshal left, Marcus returned to his work preparing for the hotel's reopening. He'd kept one memento from his ordeal, the original deed to the building, purchased for 50 cents. You hung framed behind the reception desk, a reminder that sometimes the smallest decisions can lead to the greatest changes. The man who had bought a hotel for 50 cents had indeed found a fortune, but not the kind he'd expected. He discovered that doing the right thing, even when it nearly cost him his life, was worth more than all the hidden money in the world. His story had become legend throughout the territory, proof that honest people could triumph over corruption, that justice could prevail against overwhelming odds, and that sometimes buying something for 50 cents could change everything. If you enjoyed this incredible tale of hidden fortunes and frontier justice, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing stories from the untamed West, and share this with anyone who believes that courage and truth always triumph in the end. Comment below and tell us, would you have had the courage to do what Marcus did? Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss our next thrilling adventure.